Straw Hut Media.
Hi, I'm Tony Shalhoub, and you can believe me when I say, don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Hi, welcome to Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan, a show where I get interesting people to work out my problems, and hopefully we all grow closer in the process. Today, I'm very thrilled to have somebody I've been a fan of for, 35 years. An actor who's so great and so charming and so real. When I see him on screen, I just had to meet him, and I get a chance to meet him today. His name is Tony Shalhoub. You know him as Monk, and you know him as Marvelous Miss Maisel's father, and you know him from a million other roles, and he is very interesting, funny, and very sincere. And today I'm going to talk with him about the depth of him as an actor and how I see that, and I relish it when I see it in his movies, and I wonder why I don't feel that way always when I see real people. And why are real people somehow less full of depth than fake people that I see in the movies? That's my problem. Will we solve it today? I don't know, but we'll talk about it coming up with Tony. But first, I just want to give my to all the people in Kogan Nation out there. Please write in all your suggestions, your comments, and especially your guest questions to dbawjk@gmail.com. I will respond as I have, and please subscribe to this on whatever you're listening to. Like it and subscribe on YouTube, because the more YouTube subscribers I get, the more millions upon millions of dollars I make. So really, it's up to you to see whether I have a summer home in Monte Carlo. We'll be right back with Tony Shalhoub right after this.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
I've just been a big fan of yours for a very long time.
Thank you.
You know, I'm a professional show business writer, producer, director guy.
Yeah.
But I've never had a chance to work with you. I've never had the opportunity to...
Well, that's why I'm doing your show, so in case you consider hiring me.
Well, are you good at auditions? You probably don't have to audition anymore, but in the day...
Actually, I do have to audition occasionally. You know, that's like many things in this business, is a roller coaster kind of a thing.
Right.
When your stock is up, way up, then you don't have to audition.
Right.
You get offered. And then people say, they're offer only.
Right.
Whereas I like to say I'm audition only. So yeah, even when they offer me something, I say, no, let me audition to prove why you don't want to hire me.
Right.
But I was never typically that great at auditions.
Right.
I don't know. You actors kind of twist themselves in knots, and there's so many ways to sort of self-sabotage.
I was a terrible auditioner when I was an actor. I was one of the worst auditioners, and the only time I ever got a role was at something I did not give a shit about.
I've often said that too in this business. So many times it's true. If you want it, you can't have it. You can only have it if you don't want it.
I guess my question, or the thing that intrigues me, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is, and I won't say that I've seen every single thing you've done, but the things that I've seen you done, from Monk to Wings to Men in Black to anything, you have a reality and intensity of reality within you. I see depth in your characters, no matter what you're doing.
Wow. Thank you.
And Monk is a perfect example of that. Is a guy who's very studied and considered. He's not over the top. Even in his OCD-ness, he's not over the top. He's real. And that's amazing to me. And I was just like, that's amazing to me when you're in performance. It's also something that I then look for in real life. And this show, Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan, is about me having interesting, funny people solve my problems. And one of my problems is I'm looking for that kind of depth in everyone. And I
mean
get
in life or
in life,
in movies?
In life. I guess it's there, but I see it in movies more readily than I see it in life. And I'm wondering, what is that you're bringing this intensity to your roles. I mean, I would say like in the way that Clint Eastwood brings intensity to his roles.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, it's true. Like it's not necessarily all about the words. It's about the presence and it's about the intensity. I see a real intensity and a depth to the character, and how do you bring that, or is that just who you are, or what is there any kind of serum you take?
I don't know. I mean, I think maybe it's part of who I am and how I approach, my work, the work. I don't like that phrase, my work.
Why?
Because I'm not a sculptor. If I was a sculptor or a composer or something, then it would be my work. But I work in a collaborative medium, so my work is really our work.
Of course, but like a great athlete on a team, there's lots of people doing great things, amazing things, but you still you're coming to the moment with everything, all your work and all your tools and everything you've learned and Yale drama school and also like hours of sitting in your trailer and whatever else you've brought to the day. That's what you're bringing, and you're ready to play and you're ready to move, but you are bringing your abilities with you, and it's going to be different if you do it than if Richard Kind does it.
Not to throw Richard under the
I love Richard. He's been on the show, but Richard would be much louder, and he would be.
He did our Monk movie, and he played twins in the Monk movie, and he's great. Just came for one day, just knocked it out of the park.
He's always great,
fun,
and he's been here, and he talks about acting in a much different way than you do.
What did he? Tell me what he said, because I'm going to steal his ideas.
His thing is, I know I'm great, and I know I'm right for it, and I know. If the producer doesn't see that, they're wrong. That's how he walks into an audition. So I said, and he says, I get my auditions. I said, well, that's because you walk in with that confidence. Wow. I've never had that confidence.
I never had that in auditions.
No. But I'm a different breed of cat than Richard, but I love Richard.
Aren't we all?
Yes, we are. But we also have a body of work at the end of the day. You've got a great body of work. You just did a new Monk movie?
Yeah, after 14 years of having put that thing to bed,
right?
The pandemic hit, and that became a compelling reason to revisit that character.
Okay, and I mean, obviously, I'm sure people had talked about it before then. We
had talked about it, a number of ideas, but nothing felt worth dredging it all up again. Because the truth is, when we ended after 8 seasons, we ended on a real high. We felt good about our 2-part finale. The ratings were fantastic. We didn't want to come in under that.
Right.
And so...
See, this is where you and I disagree. I will come in under anything. I have no problem. Crawling to work.
Maybe I should have thought of that.
Yeah, it's not a problem for me. So when you interact as an actor, you don't... People aren't test subjects. You're walking through life and having experiences, and you're a husband and a father and
and a grandfather.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
Fantastic.
So you're absorbing all these experiences. What part of you is banking stuff, and what part of you is just living? And what when you are asked to do a role and you're recalling moments of your life that you want to sort of lean on for? Is there a process to that, or just live life and then whatever drips down you use?
I think it's both. I think it's all one thing, really. For me, my family, growing up in a big family, and I think a lot of it has to do with my position in the family. So I was the second youngest of 10. I was the youngest boy, and I was, for all intents and purposes, kind of like half raised by my older siblings.
Right. It's a great position to be in, honestly.
It was kind of a good position.
The youngest or second youngest in that group of large tend to be left alone to their own devices to a certain extent, and you can get away with certain stuff. Parents have already given up on disciplining because they've lost so many battles as parents.
They were over it.
So now, but also if you're the youngest or the second, you're kind of adored by your older.
Well, there was kind of a two-edged sword. Yeah. I was adored on the one hand, but also kind of dismissed on the other hand. I mean, I wasn't really the focus was on the older ones because they were smarter, they were more articulate, they were more in the world.
Older.
And we were more like, I was just more kind of having to sort of observe and check it out.
Right.
But having been in that position, I think I was absorbing a lot.
Right.
And I often find when I'm doing a project and I'm drawing on each one of those personalities. They're all very different. Those
Right. Yeah.
8 older and 1 younger. And I find that they're kind of really great. They're great. They're usable. Their personalities, their rhythms, their quirks.
Especially because you know them so well. I mean, you really know them. That you can live and breathe them.
Yeah, and I'm in a way, I feel like I'm a product of them.
Yeah,
and my parents, of course, too,
right.
and my grandparents, and the many of the extended family. All of those crazy characters, aunts and uncles and cousins. So I'm a product of so many people. I feel like that maybe that was a real advantage as opposed to someone growing up in a household of just, one as an only child or maybe 2 siblings. I don't know.
Advantage or disadvantage, I don't know. You come to your art with what your journey is, whatever your journey is. If you were a lonely single child, then you bring that to the table.
That's
and
true.
Then you then you're James Woods or something. I don't know. It's like
well, my wife is one of just 2. She's the second, youngest of 2.
Right.
She's just one sister, and they grew up in a theater family. I mean, and she was acting. Her father had a musical theater tent, outside of Flint, Michigan, and even though she grew up in New York, he would do the summer thing, and so they did all the roles, and they were immersed in the theater from the time they were tiny kids. But so that's a whole different.
Right.
And she became a very successful actress too, and a brilliant actress.
Yes. Have you worked with your wife a lot?
Oh yeah. Well, we met doing a play on Broadway, and then we've done other theater pieces together. And she's did 5 episodes, I think, of Monk, playing different roles every time. And then she appears in the Monk movie in the opening scene, and we did a movie together, one that she and her sister had written and I directed, and we all acted in. So yeah, we've worked together a lot, and I'm sure we'll work together again.
It's Brooke Adams, the very talented Brooke Adams. How did you like directing? How do you like directing?
I loved it. I'm trying to figure out a way to do it again. I really did. He brings out the control freak in you.
I mean, it's great to have that power. It's also exhausting in its own way.
It is. It's daunting because I'll say, when you're an actor and things don't go right, there's 100 people to blame. My costume, the writer, the director. When you're the director, it's just like all you. It's like
I've directed before, and I blamed plenty of people. Believe me, I pointed fingers in all the other directions.
I'll have to ask you how that works.
Just fine. Deflect.
That's show business.
That's the main thing, is deflecting. But I love directing because I'm also. And this may be true of you. I just love actors. I love actors, and I love watching them work. And just like when they're turning on and doing their thing, it's just like it gives me such joy. Yeah. So I get to be a good audience in those moments, and that's fantastic. Even when they're not doing it the way I thought they would do it, even they've made different choices.
Sometimes they surprise you, and you go, "Oh my God, I never would have come up with that."
And it's so much better. The control freak has to go away at that point. And you go
you got to let go.
Right. So this is better than. They're smarter than you.
Yeah,
that thing
often happens.
Yes, which is I don't like that. I don't like that people are smarter than me. But absolutely, it happens all the time, and that's one of the great things about directing. That's not true of being a writer, sitting alone in your room and writing and all this stuff. I get feedback from people, and I get to see it on its feet, and it's all so different and so alive and so much better. Yeah, and that's and the great thing when you're an actor is like you're in the arena and you're doing it with other actors who are changing your performance and giving you something else. How fantastic! Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, so why isn't life like that? I guess, Tony, that's what I'm asking. Why can't life be more like that? I'm going to have this interaction with people all day long today, and I'm not going to feel that same joy of trading humanity or vision. I'm not going to have that experience.
Yeah, that is so true. And I think part of it is because when we're doing something like whether it's a TV thing or a movie or a play or whatever, and it's a collaborative effort, I always look at it as it's like an offering. You know what I mean? It's like I want to bring something to you. It's it's not a gift to call it a gift. It's just an offering. It's something that I want to share. I want to give to you. I want you to, you're going to probably judge it, but it's okay. You like it or you don't like it. It's okay. This is the best I can give to you right now.
Do you have
Whereas in life, it isn't so much like in life. Unfortunately, everybody's kind of scrambling for their own. It's like this is my shit. This is my agenda. Whereas I like to think of what we're doing as it's like I'm going to give that over.
That's exactly right. That we don't walk through life giving offerings. We
should,
but we don't. We don't. We walk through life surviving or trying
surviving, and it's mostly taking, and because there's so much about, especially in our culture, there's so much emphasis on, isn't there, on achieving and attaining and obtaining and advancing and all that crap.
Right.
It's so funny. I've been traveling in Europe.
This show has been actually given an award for the show that's the least about achieving. Yeah, so fantastic for us.
To the right place. You should change it to the Underachievers.
Underachievers Award.
Underachievers Anonymous.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
I've been traveling in Europe a few times, and it's so interesting that certain parts where it just doesn't, you're just doing it right in a lot of ways. It's
about quality of life, right? Those people who are sitting in cafes having a little coffee, a little drink, and like they're not in a rush to go anywhere or do anything.
No, it's okay. That's okay.
So not American.
Enjoying it, and a little more time for instead of us, we're like clawing and.
But there's not a lot of that in Green Bay. I got to be honest. There's not a lot of people sipping demi-tasse and looking in the city of the sun.
Actually, a very good place for that.
Okay, good. But it's like
not Portugal.
No. But I mean, that is exciting. That's beautiful, and have that experience on vacation. But I do not feel that when I come back home. I don't feel like, it's cool just to hang around. I got to work.
Feel guilty about hanging.
Yeah, you got to work. You got to work.
That's what people always ask me, like, "Hey, so what have you seen anything? What are you watching? And what streaming show do you love?" I'm having a hard time even doing that.
Yeah.
Even though it's part of my work and my business.
Why do you think?
Because I feel guilty that I should be doing something like, I don't even know what. Why is that?
So what are you doing instead? What are you doing then with those hours and hours of not streaming?
I don't know. I'm reading something, or I'm checking out the news, or I should keep up on. I don't know. I don't. I feel. Why can't I just sit all day and enjoy?
You're just sitting on TikTok all day.
I'm not on.
No. Okay. Good.
I'm not on social media at all. I'm happy to say.
Right. No, but it's like if you watch. I've been watching. I do watch. Binge these shows that are interesting. And,
I do occasionally.
And I excuse it as well. This is my work. I have to analyze. I got to look at stories and see how they work, and see how TV shows are
what's good, what's working,
what's hip, what's new, what are people doing differently. I can do that all day. I got to watch The Big Night last night, but I got to demand that my wife watch it with me last night because it's for work. Tony's coming. I love that movie. I wanted an excuse to watch it, so it's fantastic. So we're in a business where work and play and entertainment sort of combined. Yeah. So I forgive myself for some of that stuff, and I think you should too. I think you should watch something that's great and decide that it's fantastic, and then decide you want to work with those people or do something that's like it.
Yeah.
It's not bad. Idea. What do you do now? Sometimes you come to a show. You have in your past come to a show as kind of a day player, and sometimes you've come to a show as a star. More star lately than day player, but do you bring? Is it the same, or is every day the same, or is there a real difference to that experience?
It's relatively the same. I mean, with the exception of Monk, because I was a producer on Monk,
Right.
And that was the only. I wasn't a producer on something before that. I wasn't a producer on anything before that or since. So that's a little bit of a different animal.
Because
I'm thinking about a lot of other things other than just my acting job. Being an executive producer, it can mean many things or mean nothing. Some people just have the title, of course.
Right.
But I was always involved, more involved with the writers. I wasn't writing, but I was, like, for example, after the table read, which we did it for every script, everybody is there for the table read. And then at the end, everyone leaves except for the network people and the producers.
Right.
And I would stay.
Right.
And we would go over what we thought were strengths and what were weaknesses in that particular script.
I hope as executive producer you were defending the script and defending the writers at every turn.
I was always aligning with the writers.
I assume that's what you're doing
Of
there.
course.
Yeah.
But there was really productive discussions with the writers. And then I was involved in guest casting.
Right, of course.
I would be either in the room reading with people, or if I was not at the studio, I was looking at the tapes on those people.
Right.
And then I was also in the editing room, which was an amazing learning experience.
I feel like you can't direct unless you know how to edit. I feel like they're part and parcel to the exact same thing.
It is. And also it helped in my acting, I think, a lot, because I was able as an actor to be thinking, okay, well, I can do certain thing here or not and change it, and then in the editing we'll make the decision, and I don't have to be fretting about it.
Right.
So there and other things too, not just my performance, but whatever was visually was needing attention.
Did you love that input, or did you find it burdensome?
I loved editing.
That's great.
I never wanted to. Hours would just fly by in the editing room. But it was a lot because I was in so much of those episodes, in so many scenes, and then I was involved in casting, and it was time consuming.
For forever. Three sections of making something in movies is the writing of it, the filming of it, and the editing of it. All three things change the thing from one thing to another to another.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's fantastic. So as executive producer, I imagined you were involved in all three processes. So the story even before the network had that table read, and you're already involved in the story saying.
Well, I wasn't a writer, but I would I would have meetings with the writers. I would go to writer's room, happened to be in Summit, New Jersey. So I would go out a couple times a year and sit in Summit, and they would just show me the board, and they'd say, well, this is episode here, and this is what's happening with this character, and this is the B story. And then we had this 3 episodes later, we're going to revisit that moment. And, so I would get the outline for what they were doing.
And have some input, I guess.
And I did. And then, and I was kind of, I could throw in my ideas or objections. But mostly it was a really, really productive, collaborative effort.
Yeah.
And we had a great room.
Yeah, it's famously great. Monk was a famously great show. And it's interesting, the collaboration there when a producer or star producer comes in and says, I love this thing, and this thing's kind of not hitting me, but I wonder if we can do it this way, or I wonder if even if I don't have the answer, this is something about this doesn't feel like the show, or doesn't feel like what we're doing.
Happened,
and they listen and go, okay, let's work on that. And then they come back with other ideas, and you go, okay, well, this feels better, or this feels, that's part of, so that you're not on the day of the table read reconforming the whole show.
Exactly.
That you have a show already and changes can be made, but you don't want to blow your head off.
Exactly.
Which has happened to me in other shows. But my head
you don't want to fire people.
No, you don't want to fire people.
No, that's, in fact, it's interesting you said, because that is actually the story of the way Monk came to me. The original pilot script, which there had been a number of permutations of that script, and it had been sitting at a network before it came to USA for a lot of years. I've told this story countless times. It was sitting at ABC for a lot of years, and it just wasn't, they weren't developing it because either the people that they were going to do the part weren't interested, or the people that wanted to audition that it wasn't working.
Right.
It's the version, the script that I initially read was actually written for Michael Richards.
Okay.
Because he was circling it, I
Right.
believe. This is prior to my
Mm-hmm.
knowledge of the show at
Right.
all. And I think what actually happened, this is post Seinfeld, of course, and what happened was Michael Richards then he did a sitcom
Mm-hmm.
about a detective.
Yes.
And I forget the name of it.
Right. It was like
but
a
it was
private
basically-
investigator. Yeah.
It was a half hour.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was a single camera, but I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a half hour. I think it went for a year or whatever. But anyway, he stepped away from the Monk idea to do that show. So when I saw the Monk script, it was really more tailored toward that kind of comedy.
Right.
And it was a bit broader. And I was, my reps showed it to me and I was thinking, I'm not sure this is what I want to do, because it's sort of had almost like an Inspector Clouseau
Right.
vibe. And I thought, if I'm going to do that, I'd rather do it half hour and not kill myself.
Right.
And so my manager at the time said, well, why don't you just go meet with them, talk to the
Right.
writer, talk to the network, tell them which parts you really, are working for you and
Right.
which aren't. And I didn't even know that was a thing. I
Right.
didn't know you could. I didn't know you could do that, because I
Yeah.
was always a gun for hire.
I've had many experiences where I want to talk to an actor about something, and the representatives keep you from that conversation. Like, and I've done shows where people who said, "Well, I would have done this. I would have said yes, but they told me not to speak to you, Jay." And
Yes.
and it's there's a wall between. And if somebody doesn't like the project, that's fine. I have no hard feelings. You
Yeah.
don't have to
Yeah.
do it. But if there's something that we can work it out and changes can be made, how great.
Exactly.
One of the great things about Monk is you take Monk's. I as an audience took that character seriously. That character's not a joke. That character has jokes. There's jokes within the show,
Right.
But the character's not a joke, and
the disorder is not a joke. And,
Right.
And I was assisted in this conversation because one of the main co-creators and producers was David Hoberman, who actually had suffered from OCD when he was younger, told us stories about that. And he said, yeah, let's honor this disorder and not send it up.
Right.
And always use that as the kind of the grounding of it all. And then of course you've got the dead Monk's obsession with his dead wife,
Right.
and that murder that he was unable to solve. And so those were the sort of underpinnings of it. And then from that, we could just do whatever the hell we wanted.
You got to be funnier and sillier outside of that. But as long as the character's grounded and the world is grounded, then you're on. Then we're involved. We want the characters to succeed. We care about it, which is the whole recipe for any good show.
And what a luxury for an actor, especially in a TV show, because so often in television shows, they're either one or the other.
Right.
You're doing a procedural, well, it's going to be pretty serious, and everybody's got their little serious function, each character.
Right.
And then if you're in a comedy, well, let's face it. I mean, so many comedies are, you're called on to do 2 colors, maybe
Right.
3 colors if
Right.
you're lucky. Whereas with this one, we were going way out
Right.
on the comedy. The range was so wide. We could do goofy stuff, and we could butt that right up to a moment of real seriousness and poignancy.
Yeah, and often did. Yeah, they went
and
hand
it
in hand. It
was
was good.
people bought it.
Well, congratulations to you then, and to your writers and
Well,
everybody else
our
who made
whole
the
team.
team who made the show. It's still great, and people still love it to this day, and that's fantastic. That's good. And I mean, the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. There's the same kind of devotion to that show as there is to Monk, I think, and the people who really love it, and it really is, speaks to them in a very strong way. So, and that show specifically, one of the things I like about that show is visually, it's a feast. I've never, even if I turned the sound down and just watched it,
Unparalleled.
I would love it. Yes,
Yeah.
it's unbelievably beautiful.
Yeah, and
A lot of dialogue, though. A lot of dialogue. You have
massive amounts of work.
trouble
And
memorizing all those words?
well, that was the trickier part was the pace at which we had to spin them out.
Right.
Because Amy and Dan always wanted us to, be driving.
Faster.
Driving.
Yeah.
And, but it was an awesome experience.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Now that you're saying you feel guilty about sitting around, are you actively using your producer chops to develop things and make things happen? Or are you just sitting around waiting for the next thing?
I'm actually pitching an unscripted show.
Why?
Which I don't want to talk too much about. But,
But I mean, you're such a great actor. Why do you want to do an unscripted show?
Just because I think it's a good thing a good subject and the right time for it. And,
well, I'm not going to ask you any more about it because I want to be surprised when I see it.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to give away the story here. All the people who listen to Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan will steal your idea and run out and make it themselves.
So tell me about the title of your show.
Okay,
So
yes.
Is it because you're are you dangerous or
right?
Or are you just
right?
Are you a little?
Well, what do you think?
A little
It's
do
a
you
little
fly
vague.
off the handle?
It's a little vague. What do you think? What do you think?
Maybe it means I want to think it means that you don't like to be alone.
That's true. I don't like to be alone. I don't want other people to be alone.
Oh, okay.
And I want everybody I want to have a conversation. One of the reasons I have conversations in person with somebody, not on a Zoom thing, is because I want to have a conversation. I want to sit and see nervous tics and see what people are saying and see how comfortable they are, and they can see me and we can have a real communication.
Yeah.
And I think that's lacking, generally speaking, in the world. So that's that. And also, this gives a kind of a molester vibe that I kind of dig.
You love that.
That combination, nobody knows what to think. I have never had a dangerous edge in my entire life. Not a single moment.
Like
I'm giving myself a little bit of a dangerous edge. Now somebody somewhere is a little worried about Jake Hogan.
I know
That's never happened.
I know I am.
So that's what Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan is about. We're now going to move on to our viewer mail section.
Oh,
we have a listener mail,
people
and I'm going
actually
to ask
write to you?
People do.
Now it's time for listener mail.
This is from listener Robert, who says, "What's the biggest mistake you've made that turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to you?"
Wow. There are so many.
Okay.
The biggest mistake I made was I was in New York. I was living in New York in the 80s before I moved to Los Angeles. And I had done, when I first moved to New York, my first job was a pre-Broadway tour. And then we came into Broadway with the female odd couple, Neil Simon, female odd couple.
Right.
And it was a really fun thing. It was Rita Moreno and Sally Struthers and a bunch of great character women. And anyway, we did a tour around the country, and then we came into Broadway, and it was a big deal for me. And having just moved to the city. Anyway, cut to like 5 years later, I was asked to do a play, another Neil Simon play, a new play. And the timing was a little funky because I was about to move out to LA. And I had done an off-Broadway play a year before. And it was a kind of a funky small theater, but it became a little bit of a cult hit. And I had agreed, the director was had been a teacher of mine and a director I'd worked with a lot in the theater. He said he had set us up to do the play that we had done off Broadway here in LA. And I promised him I would do that. And then I got an offer from Neil to do this other new play, Lost in Yonkers.
Right.
And I had to turn it down because I had promised my
You had
friend.
made a promise.
So it felt when I first moved out here, first of all, the success we had with my little play in New York, we didn't have that success out here. It was just like whoosh, over the head. It was, we were in the wrong theater. It was no one came. I was making like $5 a performance.
Okay.
It was bad. bad.
Right. Okay.
And I was reading about this play that I had turned down. They started it out of town tryout at Duke, where Neil often did it in those days. It was moving to Broadway. It was a massive hit.
Right.
Pulitzer Prize,
Sure.
Tony Awards, blah,
Well,
blah.
I don't know if you know this, but Neil Simon's a pretty good playwright. So I don't know.
He was not bad.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So
and by the way, just to full disclosure, when I had to turn it down, and I love these guys. I work with those producers. I love Neil. I love the the whole team that was going to be directing and all that. When I turned it down, the casting director called me, and he was really screaming at me. He was like, "What the hell are
what are
you
you thinking? Of course.
What are you doing?"
Right.
I said, I promised this guy I would come out to. He said, "Forget it. This is Neil. This is This is going to be massive. You're making a massive mistake. You cannot do this."
Right.
Anyway, I did it, and but the reason it turned out to be the best thing was because when I then moved out to LA, that's when I started. I was going through a really rough time in my life, but that's when I.
Well, you had turned down a Neil Simon play.
There were other rough aspects.
Nothing sounds worse than that, but okay.
No, there were many bad.
All right.
things. I was at the bottom.
Okay.
In many ways.
Sorry about that.
My health and everything, my emotional, mental health. But then I reconnected with Brooke, who I had met, having done Heidi with her on Broadway. I reconnected with her, and we started dating, and then which I wouldn't have
There you go.
done. And,
So your life was
my
saved.
life and my mental health and everything. Yeah. And really, and then I got wings and everything, all that, everything started
All
to
fulfillment stemmed from turning down a gigantic Neil Simon hit.
Isn't that crazy?
That's amazing. That's fantastic. I do think, even though I know it all worked out well for you, you still should have done Lost Your Memories. That's just my opinion. I'm with the casting director the whole time.
I think it was the best move I ever made.
Well, good for you. We do have the last segment of our show before we say goodbye.
Oh, no.
One last segment is called A Moment of Joy.
A moment of joy.
What gives you joy? What's something that you comes through your day or your week, or something that gives you joy, or something that you seek out if you're down to pick you up?
You mean other than like looking at myself in the mirror?
Yes. Other than that, because that would never. I don't believe that gives you joy. I got to be honest. I don't believe it gives me joy. We're not those kind of people.
What's the opposite of joy? That's what it gives me.
Do you watch your performance? Do you ever rewatch your stuff when you do?
I mean, you mean like old stuff?
Anything. I can't watch myself.
Really?
I can't watch myself.
I can't watch you either.
Well, you have good taste. No, it's difficult for me to listen to this podcast. I just don't not comfortable observing myself because I don't really like that.
I do.
Okay,
I watch myself because I feel like I can learn from it.
You can.
And
that's why I'm a shitty actor.
And also mostly because I mean, not everything. I don't want to like revisit everything, but I've been so fortunate to work with such great writers and directors and actors that I just like watching what my fellow collaborators have done. So I know some actors don't watch themselves. I've worked with many actors who just don't watch themselves. Right. They're not interested.
No. But what's the thing that gives you joy? Let's go back to that.
One thing that really brings me joy is when I can make my wife laugh.
Yes.
Which doesn't happen as often as I would like.
Wives are sick of our shit.
Oh my God.
So they have no, my wife was on this show and we did a whole show about how sick of me she was.
I'm going on 32 years.
That's congratulations.
So she's, my shtick is played out.
We're 27. We're going on 27 years.
Congrats.
Yeah. Yes, but she's been sick of my shit for 27 years. So it's like, it's time. But yes, but when you get a laugh out of her.
And when it really goes and it just sort of like happens spontaneously, that's reassuring.
Yes.
But to be really honest, what the thing I think that gives me the biggest buzz is when it's sitting in the theater. It could be the theater or it could be like a live music venue. small, not a massive thing. And when things are just clicking and are sort of startling and they sort of take me back to when I was just starting out and getting excited about this, because you see a lot of things that they're good and they're even, they're impressive, but there's those certain moments, those few moments where you see something and you go, oh shit, this is exactly why I wanted to do this. This is bringing me back to that moment of exhilaration and wonder and magic. So those are the times where I really feel like this is where I want to be forever.
Yes.
And it happens in theater sometimes, and it happens in a live music venue sometimes, where it's just, you're transported.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the best of all possible worlds, that's what you do. Like, this is what you give to people as well.
Well, but again, this is only not on a screen.
I understand. It's a live experience.
Live, when it's only, this is only happening,
right.
And it might not even be this good tomorrow,
right?
If I were to come back, but there's just something about this audience, this vibe, this room, this moment that's just kind of heightened, and it's just that fleeting, cool, unmatchable thing.
What you're describing is what all great religions ask people to do. Is that moment of spirituality, that moment of connectedness with the world, connectedness with the now, which I completely agree. I've never experienced it myself because I'm a robot. Well, but I've heard other people.
When I'm watching this and or observing a musical thing, it is a little bit like the divine. It does go into the spiritual thing. It's like we're all we're in a space where creativity takes you. That's just not. It's just not of this earth,
right? But that creativity is from another realm, but it connects us.
Yes.
It's a connective experience.
I get it.
And
I can't describe it.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And when I experience that as well, I'm very grateful. And that's kind of what, in the best of all possible worlds, I'm trying to do when I make stuff, is to give people at least those connective moments. But you can't, if it's a movie, it's something seeable. Even when it's a movie, that moment that you were in that theater, in that moment in time with those people, and that thing, there's some bit of that too.
It's still there.
Yeah.
It's still there.
It's a little bit of that.
It's a little diminished because you're not, there's something about a live performance.
It's because it's built for obsolescence. It's built to go away. It's ephemeral. It's in that
on
moment.
Water, as they say.
Yes, exactly right. Well, Tony, thank you for being here.
Thank you,
This has been so great. I've wanted to meet you. I've wanted to experience what it was like.
Now you're sorry, right?
I've done it, and I'm not sorry at all. I'm now your new best friend.
Yes,
you'll have no choice
and
about
Richard
it.
Kind.
Exactly.
That's right.
Two of us. But I really appreciate you coming here, and we'll hopefully cross paths again soon.
I hope so.
Well, thanks for being here again.
Thanks.
All right.
Don't be alone.